of Niagara and the town of Grimsby stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that the July 7th, 2025 council meeting agenda be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Tonight we have Jordan Hamilton from the Niagara Regional Transit to speak to Councillor Frake's motion on a Niagara and Hamilton transit connection. Jordan, please welcome to the podium. I understand you're here to answer questions only, but is there anything you would like to add before Councillor Frake reads his notice of motion?
Generally cover it, but if there's any questions that you have, I'm here to answer those. And I guess I can just say quickly that, what Councillor Frake's motion proposes is part of our master plan, which was approved at our June board meeting, which is pretty exciting if you haven't seen it, for kind of the future of transit in Niagara. And we are planning to come back and visit likely in the fall to talk a little more in depth about that, but you can see it at any point, so please feel free to do that. And if you have questions in the meantime, you can always give me a shout. I'm happy to answer them day to day. So,
great, thank you, Jordan. Councillor Frake.
Mr. Chair, do you want me to comment now, or you want me to read the motion?
Read the motion.
Okay. Whereas transit services are critical to building 21st century communities, and whereas the demand for transit is continuing to increase across Ontario, including Hamilton and the Niagara region, and whereas progressive transportation is vital to attract and or retain economic investment and the well-being of the community, and whereas despite borders separating communities, many residents travel between them for a variety of important activities, such as medical appointments, employment, education, and social events, and so on. And whereas many bordering municipal transit systems in Ontario have established connections between them, and whereas better connectivity by local transit is a factor in federal and provincial investments, therefore be it resolved that Grimsby Council requests that Niagara Transit and Hamilton Street Railway work to create a connection between the two transit services, and Grimsby Council requests that Niagara Region Council prioritize a connection between Niagara Transit and Hamilton Street Railway through their budget process. And Grimsby Council requests that the adopted Niagara Transit Master Plan incorporate a near-future connection to Hamilton Street Railway Transit, and that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Niagara Transit Board, Hamilton Street Railway Board of Directors, Niagara Regional Council, Hamilton City Council, Town of Grimsby Council, and the Town of Lincoln. That's my motion. It pretty much speaks for itself. But if you want me to continue, I do have some comments that I want to read, if that's okay. Should I just continue, or you?
It's moved by Councillor Bradzi.
Yes. Yeah. We have Councillor Frake is the mover and Councillor Bradzi is the seconder. So you can lead off the discussion if you want, Councillor Frake.
Okay, I was just going to speak generally, but I prepared something. I just want to read it because I don't want to miss any points. So I just want to start with a little bit about Grimsby as it relates to transit and the importance of transit. The current transit system, which we know as NRT on demand, was never meant to be a long-term solution. But nevertheless, with all its shortcomings, it provides transit to many people, within Grimsby being the biggest user. We need to be progressive and get ahead of the curve and start working with our neighbors, i.e. Hamilton, West Lincoln, the region, if we hope to become a connected community, which offers our residents a conventional transit system which connects people with jobs, healthcare, and social needs across borders in general. Currently, Grimsby's West Lincoln Memorial Hospital is connected to Hamilton Health Sciences for most of our healthcare, but our residents don't have a transit system which gets them to Hamilton. Our young people don't have means of transport to connect them with the greater Toronto area, i.e. universities, sports events. They are basically isolated from the rest of the world. Over the next few years, Grimsby will see a huge increase in population, and many of them will require a reliable bus transit system. The people of Grimsby, Stoney Creek, Beanville, etc., will need a conventional bus system transit to connect them with the new Metrolinx GO train, west and east, to and from Hamilton, and to and from the Niagara region and beyond. With a reliable public bus transit system, we will allow a valuable mobility service, allowing our residents and families to park their cars at home, and this is the responsible thing to do. So moving on, public transit is a fundamental public service that supports socioeconomic conditions in the same way as healthcare, education, emergency services, and infrastructure. While public transit systems rarely generate a profit, their economic, social, and environmental benefits far outweigh their costs. Like other essential public services, transit services serves the broader public good, ensuring accessibility, economic growth, and social equity. Public transit is for the public good, and that basically means the services that benefit society as a whole, even if they are not directly profitable. Examples include healthcare. Public health services are not profitable, but they ensure a productive workforce, reduce the burden of sickness, and prevent public health care. Unemployment insurance. We all pay into that service, though many of us never use it. Education. Public education is not a revenue-generating system, and it's one of the most expensive things on our taxes. Most of us never use that service, but we pay the price because it creates a skilled workforce, reduces poverty, and strengthens democracy. Then there's house and personal insurances. We all pay that, but most of us never use it, thankfully. Police and fire services, two more of the largest tax items we have. These services do not generate revenue, but are essential for maintaining order, protecting property, and ensuring public safety. Roads, sidewalks, and highways. Publicly funded roads do not make money directly, but they enable economic activity, trade, and personal mobility. Parks and recreation, another tax. Playgrounds, libraries, nature trails, etc. We all pay those taxes, but many residents never use them. We all pay for these services. Some of us use those services and some of us don't. We live and work in a society where the many pay for the few. So public transit is a driver also of economic development and offers valuable economic benefits. While transit systems may operate at a financial loss, they provide significant economic value. It supports employment and productivity. Workers depend on public transit to access jobs. Without it, economic productivity would decline due to increased travel times and reduced workforce participation. It reduces congestion costs. Traffic congestion costs cities billions in lost productivity, fuel waste, environmental damage. Public transit reduces congestion, benefiting everyone, including those who do not use it. It attracts business and investment. Businesses thrive in areas with strong transit networks as they ensure access to employees, customers, and suppliers. It reduces infrastructure costs. Expanding road networks to accommodate more cars is far more expensive than investing in transit. On a social equity and inclusion point of view, it ensures mobility for all. Many people, i.e. low-income workers, seniors, students, and those with disabilities rely on transit for essential travel. Reduces household transportation costs. Car ownership is expensive. Transit allows families to allocate more income to housing, food, and necessities. Shall I stop? Can I have another minute? It connects underserved communities. Transit ensures access to opportunities for those who cannot afford a vehicle, reducing economic disparities. And then there's the hidden cost of neglecting public service transit. If public transit were solely judged by direct cost recovery, many infrastructure systems would be dismantled, leading to higher tax costs to society as a whole. Increased traffic congestion, more cars on the road lead to lost productivity, higher fuel consumption, and greater infrastructure maintenance. The environmental costs, increased reliance on personal vehicles leads to higher emissions, overcrowded parking, worsening public health, and increased household costs. Economic inefficiency. Workers without reliable transit options may be unable to access jobs, education, nonprofit events, and leading to labor shortages and reduced economic productivity. And of course, we lose tax revenue. Transit is an essential service and investment. It is not profit-seeking service. Like healthcare, education, and emergency services, public transit is not about making a profit. It is about ensuring a functioning, inclusive, and economically viable society. While it requires public funding, the return on investment in terms of economic growth, social mobility, and environmental sustainability makes it an undeniable necessity. The absence of transit would impose far greater cost on society, proving that its value cannot be measured purely in financial items, but in contribution to the common good. So hopefully we'll all vote in favor of this motion tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Sharwa.
Oh, sorry.
Through you, Chair, thank you. First, I wanted to acknowledge Councillor Freak. Thank you for being proactive and having these talks with Hamilton. I appreciate that you've gone out of your way to have these. I know that transit is important for economic development. I'm going to ask Jordan, actually, thank you, through you, Chair. Just a few questions. So I'm just trying to understand this. First question refers to service. And then there's a follow-up question as well. So if you could just outline what service this would provide as far as locations and frequency, because I did watch the Public Works meeting for Hamilton regarding this. If you can expand on that.
Sure, through the mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor. So in terms of where the connection would be made, we'd be looking at Winona Crossing. The HSR has talked already about sort of holding a bay for us that we would be able to pull into. In terms of frequency, I don't have that yet. The master plan was sort of the broad strokes plan, if you will. So if you look at the map, you'll see a number of points that you would consider a hub, and that endpoint hub would be at Winona Crossing. But we haven't scheduled or determined yet how many buses per hour and things like that. But the route does run from Winona Crossing all the way to St. Catharines, if that answers your question.
Okay, so just to clarify, so the furthest we could go with this would be Winona Crossing. It stops at Winona Crossing. So we wouldn't actually be expanding beyond Winona Crossing.
Through the mayor, that's correct. From Winona Crossing, that's actually a fairly recent connection point for HSR. So from there, you can access the entire HSR network. So we don't have to go very far. But in terms of a hub, it makes the most sense just logistically. Now, in the future, there will obviously be connections at the GO station and things like that. And as that comes online, that will all get evaluated. But that's as far as Niagara Transit would go, is just to Winona Crossing, yes.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that part. Costs. If you could just briefly recap us on what our spending for NRT is in 2024, what our budget is for 2025, and what the cost of this addition could potentially be.
Through the mayor. So I did not bring those numbers all with me today. There's with 12 municipalities. I don't always know them off the top of my head. But in terms of cost for this, one of the things we're doing through the master plan and what we call phase one, which is 2026 and 2027, is actually looking at reallocating a lot of the transit routes and things have been or haven't gone under a redesign for a very long time. So it shouldn't be a significant increase, but without frequencies, that affects capital costs for buses or whether we can repurpose them, that fuel costs, drivers. So I don't have, this hasn't been costed yet. It's sort of projected in the master plan, but on a very general level. So what this motion does is not, because this is not the decision-making body for transit, but it just signals a desire from council that this is something that you want us to move towards in the future. All of those costs would be available through the budget process, and it wouldn't be this year, but it would be next year's budget, and I'd be able to better outline it more closely at that time.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Jordan. I'm just wondering, I would like to do a friendly amendment if that's possible, just for some of those questions. So I don't know if I'm speaking to you. I'm just hoping just to get clarification on the costs and the basic questions I said as far as frequency.
Councillor Sharwa, I think that can be just a takeaway from staff. It doesn't need to be part of the amendment on this.
But in this document, it's saying that we are going to create a connection between the two transit services, and then it says that we're going to add that into our budget.
Well,
so
that's certainly not on a Grimsby level. That's on a regional level. So I don't think we're the ones that are going to make that decision.
Sorry, I don't understand, but we're voting on this motion right now, so I'm not quite sure how
Well,
that
you're
wouldn't be
very
relevant.
welcome to vote against it, that's fine. But I think getting into the weeds on something like this right now with the costing is far too premature, given it's only projections and we're just starting a connection now.
Okay, so potentially, maybe I'm misreading this, because I'm hearing that we're committing to this, but we don't have a cost. So is that, if I can get clarification on this?
Councillor Frake, do you want to?
I agree
Add
with
to
you,
that.
Chair, that this is really premature. This is really allowing or giving Hamilton, and particularly our Transit Commission, the authority to, which is in their master plan anyways, to move ahead and do the study and do the analysis, and they will come back with those numbers. I don't think having that in this resolution now is really, really premature. I mean, we're way ahead of that. You're way ahead of the curve on this. This is the beginning step, if you will. So I think, if you don't mind, we leave that amendment, and we'll come back to that at a later date, maybe next year when we put more of the bones, the flesh on the bones of this whole, hopefully, super duper, connection between Niagara Region, Lincoln, Grimsby, and Hamilton, which will give us access to the rest of the world. But I think you're right, Chair, it's really premature. So I don't think I want to accept the friendly amendment.
Okay, apologies, I must have read that wrong. I thought that we were committing to this, but if this is first stages and we still get the information before we approve, that's fine with me. Thank you for clarifying.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. I think Mayor, and anybody who's has a interest in Grimsby heritage knows that, ironically, we had better connections more than 100 years ago with the Hamilton, Grimsby, and Beamsville Electric Railway than we have in 2025. The Electric Railway, which was incorporated in 1894, connected all three municipalities right down Main Street West. So I love the idea of the connection. My hope was always that the GO train would be that connection, frankly. And I personally never saw the GO train as a way to get to Toronto. I know that provincial policies are always Toronto-centric and everything revolves around Toronto. But from Grimsby's perspective, I think a functional GO train that goes from Hamilton to Niagara Falls is much better than a GO train that goes to Toronto. So we don't need a GO train that goes to Toronto. A GO train that goes to Toronto is great, but it's time prohibitive, because going around the bay means an hour and 20 minutes. It's not going to get people out of their cars. People will drive to Burlington because there's thousands of parking spots. So I've always hoped that the province, and I don't know if you through the region can lobby the province, but I think when the GO train comes to Grimsby, I think it needs to be as much about connecting to James Street in Hamilton and to downtown St. Catharines to Niagara Falls as it is about connecting to Toronto. I think it's great if I want to go to a Blue Jays game once a month or once every summer that I could take the train to downtown Toronto, but that's not what I want. I want a kid that goes to McMaster to get on that GO train, get on a bus in downtown Hamilton and go to Mac, and for it to not to be a ridiculous ride. So as much as I like Councillor Freak's motion, I've taken the bus in Hamilton, and I've taught my students to take the bus in Hamilton. And a ride, even if you got picked up at your house in Grimsby with on demand, got to Winona Crossing, and got the bus without any waits, would be an hour and 20 minutes to downtown Hamilton. It's not. When we talk about transit, it has to be realistic, and it has to be something that's functional and feasible, and it's about costs is important. I agree with Councillor Charrois, and I love the idea, so please don't misunderstand me. I think that I've always thought of myself as connected more to Hamilton than to Niagara, because when I grew up, every kid that I knew, their parents worked at Stelco and DeFasco and International Harvester and all the factories down there. Everybody's dad worked that way, including my dad at Westinghouse. So I've always thought of that as our closest large municipality, and I'd love to see that connection. But I also know how long that bus ride is. So with companies like LiUNA coming in to Grimsby on Hunter Road and the innovation park that is happening, I think it's important that we have a connection both ways, because we want people to be able to get to work and back using transit. But that transit has to be functional. So whatever that looks like, part of whatever the region decides, and this is through you, Mayor, to the representative, time has to be considered. Is it something that's realistic? Is it something that people are actually going to take? Because just having that connection is not good enough. Saying that we have a connection solves no problems. A connection to Winona Crossing might be great for employment, for like somebody who wants to go to work at Winona Crossing. But it's not great for somebody who wants to go to work in Hamilton, realistically, or somebody from Hamilton that wants to work in Grimsby. It's just not a great connection. It's really long. It's a long ride. Having taken the bus to Jones Road and then having to take the cab, they used to offer cabs before the buses went to Winona Crossing to the edge of Grimsby and walking home from there as a kid, I can tell you it's a long ride, and that's when everything goes smoothly. So cost is a big thing that I think needs to be considered. I think that the takeaway from this is if we have a system, I would love to see buses that interconnect. I think that on-demand in Grimsby needs to go, personally. I think that our on-demand system should be one that is for people with mobility issues and for people who are with high needs. But for everybody else, I'd love to see a bus. And I know that there's a huge upfront cost to that, shelters, things like that. But it's a more realistic and consistent system. And I think in the long run, a more cost-effective system. The last thing I want to say is if we had a connection that went to Winona Crossing, it would be 4 buses to get to the industrial areas of Hamilton. So it would be whatever you get in Grimsby to Winona Crossing to Centennial Parkway downtown, and a connection to wherever you're going to get to, whether it's the Wellington bus that takes you down to Burlington Street. It's not realistic. I know the bus system in Hamilton. It's not a realistic connection. So we need to, that has to be part of our consideration. I'd love to work with HSR, but all of that I hope is going to be part of the plan. So I've said enough. I apologize. Thank you.
Any further questions from council? Councilor Korstanji.
Thank you, through Chair. I think this is good. I do have concern with costs and how this is going to cost, but what I'm curious is how does Niagara Specialized Transit and DARTS fit into this for that accessible sort of connection? And I know that there is still a lot of work to be done with Niagara on demand, especially in our area. And yes, I do agree that we need to sort of move ahead, but I don't want to see the work that needs to be done with the inefficiencies here just sort of forgotten about as we venture onto that.
Through the chair, Mayor, I'm actually very glad you brought that up. And this is the first time I've been at a council and been able to say the words RFP. So just last week, we had a brand new RFP go out for the specialized and microtransit services, because you're absolutely right. There is a long way to go for our specialized riders. We recognize that, and that has been a long work in progress by a lot of people throughout the organization. And just sort of incorporate in your answer what Councillor DeFlavio was talking about. This connection at HSR is intended to be a regional bus. And so when you talk about the GO train being, it's going to run on that track, but it will not stop as frequently as, say, in Grimsby and then in Lincoln and, like Beamsville area, Vineland. So it is slated to that connection to be a regional bus. Community buses, and I very much appreciate the history of the electric rail connection. That's we'll have to grab a coffee sometime. You can tell me more about that. It was a little before my time in the 1800s, but yeah. But so, and that connection point at Winona Crossing, in terms of a specialized user, that is door-to-door service, and so I can't speak exactly to what that connection would be. But the idea would certainly be to connect to DARTS in Hamilton. DARTS does come there, and so that's part of that exploration that we would do through this and that this motion is requesting. That would be definitely a part of it. On the microtransit side, one of the big benefits to an intermunicipal bus like this is, and if you look in the maps in the master plan, you will see these hubs. And right now, you just have the microtransit service, but as soon as there is a bus there, the microtransit service will deliver riders to those hubs on the microtransit, and then they take the bus from there. And so it becomes what we would call a first mile, last mile. And that means instead of making those longer journeys that take more time, and that means that those people who can take a bus connect to the bus through that microtransit service. So I know that was sort of a meandering way to answer the question, but I think I covered everything, and that is the vision in the master plan and what it will look like going forward.
Seeing no further questions from council, thank you, Jordan. First resolution was moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Bradsey. I won't read the resolution. I'll just ask everyone in favor. That's carried. And can I have a mover and seconder to receive the delegation? Moved by Councillor Bradsey, second by Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor Bradsey, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that delegation from Jordan Hamilton of Niagara Regional Transit be received. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Jordan. Have a good evening. All right, up next, Councillor Korsanji, can you please read your notice of motion?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Whereas Section 239 2B of the Ontario Municipal Act states to a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter is being considered is B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and whereas Section 239 2E of the Ontario Municipal Act states to a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Therefore, be it resolved that council move into closed session to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual and litigation or potential litigation. And I am asking, contingent on a 2/3 majority vote, that this motion, notice of motion be given consideration at the July 7th, 2025 meeting, which is tonight.
All right, thank you for that notice. Moved by Councillor Korsanji, second by Councillor Sharwa. Resolved that the rules of procedure be temporarily suspended by an affirmative vote of 2/3 to consider both the open and closed session notice of motions on potential litigation identifiable individual. It requires a 2/3 vote, so do you want to do e-scribe? E-scribe, please. All right, that is carried. Where are we?
Is there any discussion about the open motion?
Yes, is there any discussion about the open motion?
Otherwise, we'll talk about it in closed.
All right, seeing none, we'll talk about that in closed. All right. All right, so the resolution has been read by Councillor Korsanji, second by Councillor Sharwa, so we can vote on that,
Specifically, just going.
specifically going into closed session. Read this? All right. All right. So moved by Councillor Korsanji, second by Councillor Sharwa, whereas Section 2392B of the Ontario Municipal Act states meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including a municipal or local board employee, and whereas Section 2392E of the Ontario Municipal Act states a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Therefore, be it resolved that council move into closed session to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual and litigation or potential litigation. All in favor of moving into closed? That's carried. All right, can I have a mover and seconder to move into closed? Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Sharwa. Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Sharwa. Resolve that council meet in closed session under Section 2392 of the Municipal Act, specifically regarding a biodigester update pursuant to Section 2392F, Grimsby Downtown BIA and Town of Grimsby Memorandum of Understanding pursuant to Section 2392K, employment matters pursuant to Section 2392B, and potential litigation of an identifiable individual pursuant to Sections 2.39, 2B, and E. All in favor to go into closed? That's carried. As per our procedural bylaw, we'll ask those in attendance to please vacate the council chambers so we can proceed with the closed session. All right, we're back in open now. Can I have a mover and seconder for the closed session direction? Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Sharwa. Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Sharwa. Resolved that the information provided in closed session regarding the biodigester update be received, and that the memorandum of understanding between the Grimsby Downtown BIA and the Town of Grimsby be approved, and the corresponding bylaw be brought forward at the August council meeting, and that the information provided in closed session regarding employment matters be received, and the direction provided in closed session regarding potential litigation identifiable individual be approved. All in favor? That's carried. All right, up next we have Chair's report. Councillor Frake, can you give the Chair's report for corporate services?
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Yes, the Corporate Services Committee met on June 16th, 12 noon. We had one person missing from the committee. We called order at 12 o'clock. Plan acknowledgement, disclosure of interest, none. Approval of the agenda. We received the previous minutes from the Corporate Services Committee on April 14th, 2025. Joint Fire Services Advisory Committee, April 16th, 2025. The Joint Accessory Advisory Committee minutes of May 8th, 2025. We had no delegations, no consent reports. We did have one discussion report, that's CAO 25-08, based on a twinning opportunity between Grimsby, Canada and Grimsby, UK. There is a copy of that attached. We have been in touch with the CAO filed the report. If she wants to speak to it, she can. But basically, we have received an invitation from Grimsby, UK to twin with them, which is something we've been trying to do for the last, I don't know how many years, and we finally made some traction. But it will require some funds in our budget next year, and it will require possibly putting together some type of a committee and some type of a delegation that might go to the UK to complete this particular type of twinning process. It was endorsed by the committee, and hopefully it will be endorsed by council. So that's pretty much it. There's no correspondence, no other business, and the next meeting will be called at the call of the chair, and that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Frake. Can I have a mover and seconder to approve the previous minutes? Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Vardy. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that the following minutes be approved. Corporate Services Committee, June 16, 2025. Council, June 16, 2025. All in favor? That's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder for the council endorsement package? Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Vardy. Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that council endorsement package from the Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee dated June 10th, 2025 be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the board minutes? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that the following board minutes be received. Committee of Adjustment, May 20th, 2025. Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee, June 10th, 2025. All in favor? That's carried. Now we move to the announcements page. I just have one that is more of a community service announcement. I'm sure most people are aware, but maybe we can find someone who isn't aware and has some information. A gentleman named Wolfgang Glazer, 72 years old, went missing on June 21st, 2025, and he was last seen heading south around 8 p.m. on Mountain near Elm Tree Road. And it just, if anyone has any information, please contact if you don't have any other number to contact the Town of Grimsby Town Hall or the police. I think both are conducting information, and certainly the police are involved now. But yeah, if you do have any information, please get a hold of someone and pass that forward. Any other announcements? Councillor Korstanji.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, through Chair. Coming up next weekend, July 11th to the 13th, is the Special Olympics Ontario Provincial Games, and it's in Brantford. And I'm happy to say that the local West Niagara Special Olympics soccer team has qualified to go. So our soccer team will be representing West Niagara. And we actually have a few local, 2 Grimsby athletes, and then we have a few others from Lincoln and Waynflete and Hamilton for track and field that practice with us in West Niagara. So we'll be well represented with soccer and track and field. So we wish the athletes good luck next weekend. I'd also just like to say that Councillor Shara and myself had the opportunity to delegate to the provincial committee on the proposed Bill 9 in the Municipal Act, and we were fortunate to also be in the company of a few of the regional councillors and the mayor of Burlington, and it was a great experience delegating to the committee. So I just want to congratulate the both of us on doing that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, and kudos to our Special Olympic athletes, and wish them all the best of luck in Brantford this weekend. Can I have a mover and seconder for the consent report? Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Korstanji. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Korstanji. Resolved that Council hereby approves the following items, and the various consent items be approved on the recommendations as contained therein. PA 2525, that report, PA 2525, Council Direction Report, 262 Main Street West, dated July 7th, 2025, be received, and the Council proceed with approving the amending bylaw for the property at 262 Main Street West. DCS 2528, that report, DCS 2528, Agreement of Services, Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, dated July 7th, 2025, be received, and that one, that the Agreement of Service between the Corporation of the Town of Grimsby and the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority be approved, and 2, that the mayor and town clerk be authorized to sign required documents to execute said agreement. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, correspondence. Can I have a mover and seconder for the World Hepatitis Day proclamation? Councillor Vardy and Councillor Korstanji. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Korstanji, whereas approximately 204,000 Canadians are living with hepatitis C and over 250,000 people are living with hepatitis B, and whereas people living with hepatitis B and C have an increased risk of developing cirrhosis, liver failure, and related illnesses, and whereas Ontario has over 110,000 people living with hepatitis B or C, both of which are slow and progressive diseases, and whereas there are vaccines available for hepatitis A and B. Effective hepatitis C treatment therapies can cure over 95% of cases, and whereas World Hepatitis Day provides an opportunity to reach out to millions of Canadians and encourage hepatitis testing, provide treatment and care for those affected while paving the way towards elimination of hepatitis as a public health concern in Canada by 2030. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Jeff Jordan, do hereby proclaim July 28th, 2025 as World Hepatitis Day in Grimsby. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, can I have a mover and seconder to receive the staff memo on revised procedural bylaw? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Sharwa. Moved by Councillor Howe, seconded by Councillor Sharwa. Resolved that, Councillor Sharwa.
I apologize, sorry. I was just hoping to get clarification on that because I was going to ask that when it comes up in bylaw. Just understanding of what that is.
All right. Okay.
Sorry, what do you need?
Just clarification on that correspondence for the staff part. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. So the process, the reason this is before you today is that there was a mayoral direction in May 15th that the mayor directed the town clerk to prepare amendments to the procedural bylaw. So that direction can be found on our website. It was issued on May 15th. So the This specific update is to include special powers and the duty of the head of council as per the Municipal Act. There's a new prescribed form which allows council members, it provides council members a process to call a special meeting or notice or provide notice to override a mayoral veto. So there was no changes made to that process. We're just allowing we provided a form as a method to do that. And so that form's attached as Appendix B. And then the third section was to amend Section 8.8, which was correspondence, which was past direction from council that any emails from the Ontario government be circulated directly via email within 1 business day of it being received, instead of it going into the council, not instead of, in addition to it going in the council information package.
It's great, thank you.
All right, moved by Councillor Howe.
Anyways, this brought to me, and this is the directive that the mayor signed. This is the number one, the very first mayor's power that we signed. And it brought, going through this, it was there and I brought it up. And this hit me just like a ton of bricks. To see we're messing around or changing bylaw or process, and there's only one signature on it. One signature. It's not a council. It's not a majority. It's one person. I trust this person that's got his name on here, but it's one person. You've just kissed goodbye to some of our governance structure, our people having a say in it. Say goodbye to it, because there's going to be mayors coming down the pipe that are going to make more money than we've ever thought of. I can't. For me, it's just a change, and I don't like some changes, and this one is not this is not a good change.
All right, moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Charwa. Resolved that staff memorandum regarding revised procedural bylaw be received. All in favor? And that's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder for the bylaws? Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that leave be given to bylaws 25-32-3 and 25-35 inclusive, and the same be read a first time, considered, and passed. All in favor? And that's carried. Next council meeting is scheduled for August 11th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. Can I have a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw? Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Howe. Moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Howe. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 25-36 and that same be read a first time, considered, and passed. All in favor? And that's carried. Meeting is adjourned. Good night, everyone. Have a good evening. Thank you.